In this video, we're going to go over some various methods that we have for describing qualitative data. And before we can do that, though, we need to define some terms. And the first term that we're going to define is a class. And for the sake of our statistical analysis, we're going to consider a class as a category in which we can classify qualitative data. So if we're talking about maybe a favorite sport, we can say that a class would be hockey or baseball or soccer, or so on. If we're going to talk about maybe a profession, we could say a mechanic, a teacher, or some other kind of job. We then can talk about our class frequency. And the class frequency would then just be the counts for each of the different classes. So how many people or objects or things are classified in a particular category. So when talking about the sports one, we can say that 7 people have baseball as their favorite sport, 9 have hockey. Or maybe we can say from the jobs one, we can say that 7 people are mechanics, 3 are teachers, and so on. We then also have our class relative frequency. And the class relative frequency is just equal to the class frequency divided by the total number of observations that we have for our particular problem. So we're going to say that the total number of observations is n. So for the two examples that we talked about, both the favorite type of sport and the profession, we can say that n is just the total number of people surveyed, and then the relative frequency would be how many people are in that given profession or like that sport divided by the total number of people surveyed. And then finally, we have our class percentage. And we say our class percentage is then equal to our class relative frequency, which we're going to say is CRF, multiplied by 100. And this is just going to give us the percentage of people that fit into that particular category, or the percentage of our experimental units that have that particular category. The class frequency, the class relative frequency, and the class percentage are all essentially numerical methods that we can use to summarize our qualitative data. We can also summarize our qualitative data in a graphical representation, and one of the most popular ways of doing that is with a bar graph. And a bar graph is the same bar graph that you've seen in a lot of different applications, where the height of the bar is directly related to how many experimental units are of a given category. So for example, if more people like baseball than soccer, the bar for baseball is going to be higher than the bar for soccer. We also have pie charts. And again, this is the same pie chart that you've probably seen before, where the proportion of the pie is again directly related to how many experimental units are in that particular category. So a larger section of the pie is going to relate to a larger number of people or objects in that given category. And the final one that we're going to talk about is a Pareto diagram. And a Pareto diagram is the same as a bar graph. However, to make it a Pareto diagram, we just sort by bar height. So the ones with the largest proportion or the tallest bar is going to be on the left, and it's going to get progressively smaller as we move further and further to the right. Now that we've defined all these terms that we need, we're just going to walk through a simple example. And for our example, we're going to create a set of classes. And these classes are just going to be associated with the level of education obtained by each person in the sample. And these are just completely made up numbers, but we're going to have less than high school. We're going to have high school. We're going to have associates. We're going to have a bachelor's, a master's, and doctoral degrees. Okay, and then for each of these classes, they're going to have some class frequency. So we're going to say our class frequency. And the class frequency is, again, just the number of people from our given population that fall into that particular class. So for our less than high school, we're going to say we're going to have 2 people. For our high school, we're going to say we have 10, associates 22, bachelors 30, masters 14, and doctoral of 2. So if we add that all up, just to get our total here, we're going to say our total is just the sum of all these numbers, and we get a total of 80 people that we're looking at. Now to get our class relative frequency, so we're going to abbreviate that, class relative frequency. We are going to just simply divide the number for each of the different categories by the total number of people that we have. So for class relative frequency for less than high school, we're just going to say 2 divided by 80. So we say 2 divided by 80 is equal to 0.025. For high school, we say 10 divided by 80 is equal to 0.125. And we just keep going down for all of our different classifications. So we have 0.275, we have 0.375, 0.175, and again 0.025. So that's our class relative frequency for each of our different classes. And then just to get that class percentage, so we're going to say class percentage, we just multiply all these numbers by 100. So we get 2.5%, we get 12.5%, 27.5%, 37.5%, 17.5%, and again 2.5%. And if we would add all these numbers up together, if we add up all these, we're just going to get a total of 1. And if we add all of our class percentages, we're going to get a total of 100%. Now that we have this data from our example, we can use it to just create some basic graphical summaries to kind of get an idea of what those look like as well. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to create a bar graph, but we're going to create it as a Pareto diagram. So we're going to go from largest to smallest, with starting from the largest. So to do that, we're going to need a couple of axes. So we're going to have our y-axis, and we're going to have our x. And our x is just going to have the different categories that we're going to have. So we'll have to walk through and do that to start with. But from our y, we can kind of see what range we need. So our highest is 37.5, so maybe we'll go up to 40% up here. Say this is 40. And then halfway down would be 20. And then we have 30 and 10 in between. So again, since we're doing a Pareto diagram, we're going to need to start with a bachelor's as our highest. So we're going to say our bachelor's, so you can say BA. And for our bachelor's, we have 37.5%. So that's right up here close to 40. So we're going to say we're right about here. And then we just draw a line straight down for our bachelor's. And we can fill that in if we want. For our next one, we have our bachelor's done now. So we need to see what our second highest. And our second highest looks to be an associate's degree. So we're going to say associates. We're going to abbreviate that as AS. And associates, we had 27.5%. So again, it's going to be right below one of our lines, right below 30, somewhere around here. And then we just draw a line straight down for our associates. Fill it in. So that's our associates. Then our next one is masters with 17.5. So we'll draw a line for that. Draw a nice bar for the masters. Fill that in and label that as MS. And then we have our high school with 12.5, so a little less. So we have 12.5 for our high school. And now we have doctoral and less than high school are both at 2.5%. So in this case, we can organize that in any way that we want. How about we just go in alphabetical order? So we'll go doctoral first. We're going to say DO, and we have 2.5%, so somewhere around here. Fill that in, and then we also have our less than high school. with the same level. So we need to make sure that those bars are the same height and fill that in. So now we have a bar chart symbolizing for our data here. But it's also a Pareto diagram, remember, because it's sorting the data points from largest to smallest, with largest on the left and smallest on the right. Now that we've walked through just a basic example about how to create a bar chart from our data, we're going to do the same thing, but in this time we're going to create a pie chart. Now there's a quick trick to being able to figure out what kind of angle you need for each of our different categories from a pie chart. And the way that we figure that out is we take the class relative frequency, which is again just our class percentage divided by 100, and multiply it by 360 to get the number of degrees for each of our different areas in our pie chart. So for our less than high school, we have 2.5%, which is again 0.025%, or 0.025, and we multiply that by 360, and we get a total of 9 degrees. And that is just going to be our angle for the pie chart that we're creating. If we do the same thing for all of our different ones, so we have 45 degrees for high school, we have 99 degrees for associates, 135 for bachelor's, 63 for masters, and again that same 9 for our doctoral. So now just to create our pie chart here, we're just going to draw a circle with my terrible handwriting here, or terrible graphical skills, and we're going to start off by just creating our first initial line from the middle. And now we're going to need to go, we'll start off with our largest one. So we're going to start off with our bachelor's, and we're going to need to go 135 degrees. So if we make it just a perfect right angle, that would be 90. We need to add in 45, which is half of that again. So we're going to say right about here is our 135 degree angle is going to go right across here. And this is going to be our bachelor's. So we're going to say this is BA. And then our next one is 90 degrees, or 99 degrees, excuse me, for our associates. So 90 degrees would be right around here. 99 is just a little bit wider than that, so we're going to go right down to here. And we're going to say that that's our associates. And then we have 63 for our masters. So if this would be somewhere around 45, would be right around here. We'll go a little bit wider than that for 60 for our masters. And then we have 45 for our high school, which is going to be right around here, high school. And then we have 9 and 9 for both our doctoral and less than high school. So say less than high school and doctoral. And that's just a simple way that we can make a pie chart. And again, you're going to want to use a compass and a protractor to be able to create perfect circles and the appropriate angle. But just to give you an idea about how you can go about creating that, we can use the formula for just multiplying the class relative frequency by 360 degrees to get the appropriate angle.